Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome on behalf of Dallas College and the sustainability team to our newly bi-weekly Sustainable Use webinar series. My name is Lori De La Cruz Lewis, and I'm joined by our WebEx team member, Casey Wayne Connor, who is working in the background. We are so grateful for the support of the Dallas College WebEx support team. We really could not do this without them. So with that, I am happy to introduce our speaker for today. Emily Dang is a supervisor at Dallas CASA, where they recruit and train volunteers to work with and advocate for children in foster care. She's been with Dallas CASA for the last 9 years and primarily provides direct service to youths aging out of foster care. Prior to CASA, she worked with Child Protective Services as a conservatorship caseworker and a legal liaison in the DA's office. She is currently co-chair of the Dallas County Child Abuse Prevention Coalition. Emily, we're so glad you're here today.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon. My name is Emily again, and I work with Dallas CASA. First, thank you to Dallas College for having me as a part of the Sustainable Youth program. I'm really excited to be here today and kind of share a little bit more with you as far as what we do. So I'm going to start with a little bit of the history. CASA started in 1977 when a Seattle judge had to make a decision on whether or not to remove a 3-year-old girl from the only home she had known. The girl was brought to the hospital and doctors determined she had suffered injuries from child abuse. However, mom was saying that she had fallen off the swing and her boyfriend had already moved out of the home. The judge felt like there was no one in the courtroom that could only speak up for the child, so he had the idea that these children who had experienced abuse and neglect needed trained volunteers to speak up on their behalf. Dallas CASA is one of the 3 pilot programs established in 1979. So our mission is to advocate in the community and in the courtroom for children in the protective care of the state so they can grow up in safe, permanent homes where they can thrive. We envision a day when all child victims of abuse and neglect can grow up in safe and nurturing homes where they can reach their full potential. So every year, more than 20,000 Dallas County children are reported abused and neglected. Some of them must be removed from their homes because it isn't safe for them to remain and they enter into foster care. During that time, our advocates are visiting with children in their placements to ensure they're safe, as well as advocate for their needs and for permanency. In 2021, we had over 1,500 volunteers serving over 3,100 foster children in Dallas County. After going through an extensive background check, interview, and extensive training, a volunteer advocate is assigned to a case, sometimes with multiple children on a case. As I mentioned earlier, our volunteer advocates are visiting with children in their placements, whether it's a foster home, a residential treatment center, or with a relative caregiver, to ensure that they're safe, as well as advocating for their needs, such as medical, education, and therapeutic care. Our advocates are also speaking and gathering information from CPS caseworkers, attorneys, caregivers, teachers, therapists, and doctors in order to advocate for the child's needs and to work to find them permanency. Permanency can be recommending a return to parents if parents have complied with services and it's safe to do so, or with a family member or an adoptive home, or even preparing them to age out of care. The advocate would submit a report and attend court hearings to represent the child's best interest. So I'd like to show a quick video from a few years ago that highlights some of our wonderful volunteer advocates and their experiences, as well as their impact.
The baby had illegal drug substances in his system, so he was removed from his home. Seeing that situation really broke my heart.
He was behind developmentally, he was behind verbally, he was very ill. He tested positive for tuberculosis, he had a double ear infection, childhood immunizations hadn't been taken care of.
The house was so horrifically dirty, and when I mean dirty, we're talking trash piled everywhere, fast food containers, no working toilet, kitchen floor had a huge hole in it.
She's 6-7 months at the time, and she's been abused such that she's in intensive care. She has brain damage, she has eyesight damage.
My very first case as a volunteer CASA advocate was a 7-year-old named Desi. She came into care because her mother was using meth. She had a baby sister that was born positive for meth, and they found a meth house in the garage in her backyard. There were allegations of sexual abuse and potential physical abuse. Desi had missed over 42 days of school the year before. She was 3 reading grades behind. She hated going to school. She was withdrawn. She did not have friends.
You realize that some children don't have childhood, and that's unfortunate. The things that you would take for granted, the things that I did for my children or my grandchildren, or just, things you just do. I'm working within a system where children may not have benefit of that, and it's sad because it's as if their childhood is being robbed. So, to the extent possible, you help them have a childhood.
There are so many children going through the court every single day, and it's impossible for you to know the child and know the child's needs to the depth that a CASA volunteer would. CASA is seeing that child more often than anybody else in the case, and it can focus a lot more on that individual child and what's best for that individual child. We were able to make sure that he was getting all the developmental therapy that he needed, that he was getting what he needed in court.
She was getting back to the correct reading level. She was thriving in soccer. She would get on the ground and she would draw for me and show me art and say, Miss Jenny, I'm actually good at art. I can do art. I really loved getting to go visit with her and see her thrive. But we did have to talk about her mother because she's still using meth. It was very emotional for me because she got on the floor in a ball and started crying. And she said, Miss Jenny, I don't want to decide where I live. I want you to tell the judge, I love my mommy, but I feel safe here. And I don't want to have to make that decision. And I don't want to tell my mommy that I don't want to live with her. After hours of emotion and deliberation, the biological mother of Desi said, I will agree for my rights to be terminated because I want my child to have something that I can't give her, and I can't give her a safe and protective home, and I want her to be able to be adopted. And it was such an honor as a volunteer advocate to be able to support this little girl and help advocate for a safe, protective, and loving home.
It's daunting to know bad things happen to kids, but it's rewarding to be able to help fight against that.
To be that person that in the darkest of nights, that child has someone to call. That child has someone that in between 14 different placements and 6 different CPS caseworkers, that one person is still there. You just have to have a love for kids and a desire to see them in a good place.
And fortunately, we were able to get her mother involved in helping out and really understanding what was going on. And by doing so, we were able to reunify the kids with the mom. Just a huge win all the way around for both the kids as well as the mom.
And now that he's a year old and watching him run around and play, it's a miracle. It's a miracle how well he's doing, and knowing that I'm there, that I've watched him go through all that, that now that he's so much better, and now he's in a loving home. And it's this loving home that helped him go through all that. To me, that was the biggest reward.
As a CASA volunteer advocate, I get to see change. I get to see children's lives changed for the better, get to see them thrive and grow and learn. And when a child feels safe and when a child feels loved, they're a different person. And we get to be a part, a small part of that change.
Experiencing abuse, neglect, and other forms of trauma can impact a child's physical and mental health, academic achievements, and more. Research shows that having a stable relationship with a supportive adult can help children do well, even when they face significant hardships. A Dallas CASA volunteer provides consistency and stability for the child throughout the case, and a volunteer helps the child to build resiliency to counter some of those impacts. Research done by our National CASA shows that a child with a CASA volunteer has significantly fewer placements than a child without a volunteer. The child with a volunteer is less likely to re-enter the child welfare system, and they're more likely to achieve permanency. They are as likely to be reunified with a birth parent as a child without a volunteer. And when CASA volunteer is assigned, a higher number of services are ordered for children and families. And a child with a volunteer is more likely to have better outcomes. Children and youth assigned reported significantly higher levels of hope, which is linked to the numerous positive outcomes such as academic success, overall well-being, increased self-control, positive social relationships, and optimism. Here at CASA, we serve children and families of all cultures, abilities, identities, and backgrounds. We're committed to our goal of advocating for the best interests of all children in the foster care system and providing each child with the highest quality volunteer advocacy possible. We recruit and train volunteers to understand the individual and unique needs of all children. Black children make up 24% of Dallas County's child population, but account for 43% of child removed from abuse and neglect. Children and families of color are disproportionately represented in the child welfare system, both in Texas and nationwide. We also know how important it is for a young person to see someone who looks like them, and they may be more comfortable having conversations with them about issues unique to their racial and ethnic identities. Hispanics represent 55% of the child population in Dallas County and 30% of children removed from homes due to abuse and neglect. Bilingual Spanish-speaking volunteers are an important part of understanding the child's culture and helping build a trusting relationship with the child. Many of our families, whether parents or caregivers, are only Spanish-speaking. Having a bilingual Spanish-speaking volunteer helps to promote better understanding and better outcomes. Males also make up 50% of youths in foster care, so we strive to find volunteers who can be positive male role models for youths in care. So there's many ways you can get involved. Become a volunteer and tell your friends and family to become a volunteer. Become involved with one of our auxiliary groups like our Children's Council or Young Professionals group. Our young professionals work to increase awareness for Dallas CASA while providing charitable and social opportunities. The Children's Council raises funds through special events and promotes community awareness about needs for the children of Dallas CASA. Members participate in other activities that recognizes the work of our volunteers. They also help with events such as National Adoption Day, the Prom Dress Drive, and our Angel Tree Drive during Christmas time. And of course, you can always donate to Dallas CASA. So I wanted to give you a little bit more of an idea about how significant the issue of child abuse and maltreatment is here in Texas. This is from a report completed by Child Trends from fiscal year 2020. That year, there were 232,662 referrals made to the CPS hotline, which is about 31.3 referrals made per 1,000 children. That was 263,493 children who were investigated for possible abuse or neglect. Of those, 65,116 children were found to be victims of maltreatment or abuse. Child abuse and maltreatment affects children of all ethnicities, all ages, and all socioeconomic statuses. So I want to break the numbers down even further, specifically to Dallas County. Dallas County was the second highest in the state with 21,452 children of abuse and neglect. You can see on the left the breakdown of types of abuse includes anything from abandonment, trafficking, neglect, physical abuse, and sexual abuse. There were 3,768 children in the care of CPS in Dallas County alone. Dallas County was third highest in the state. So now let's talk about permanency. On the left, you can see the breakdown of how children end up leaving the foster care system, whether being reunified with their parents, placed permanently with family, an unrelated adoption, or aging out of care. To the right, you can see that 1,267 foster youths aged out of care. Again, Dallas County is third in the state with the highest number of youths transitioning out of foster care. Now let's talk about outcomes for youth aging out of care. As you can see, youths who transition out of foster care may have worse outcomes due to their experiences, trauma, and often lack of support. Many end up couch surfing or homeless. They're more likely to become pregnant at an early age, more likely to develop substance abuse or addiction, and more likely to be convicted of a crime. 1 in 4 won't graduate from high school, and only 3% will earn a college degree. A study done in 2018 showed that only 1.5% of Texas youths who experienced foster care had earned a bachelor's degree. A study completed by the Annie E. Casey Foundation in 2018 suggested that half of older youths who left foster care aged out versus being reunited or connected with family. A third had been removed from their home and placed in foster care multiple times. Half have experienced 3 or more foster care placements, and a third experienced a group home or institutional placement during their most recent stay in foster care. In Texas, young adults may be eligible to enter extended foster care until the age of 21. However, that is only if there is placement available to them. As you can see on the right, many youths end up leaving before their 19th birthday. Many times that could be because they no longer want to be a part of the foster care system. Young people who experience foster care lag behind general population peers when it comes to education and employment. Targeted transitional services are available and can help, yet many foster youth who participate in the federally funded transition services, just 23% of them received educational support or employment assistance. Part of that may be because youths may not be aware of or know how to access the assistance. As a CASA, I work to make sure they know what resources are available to them and connect them with community resources such as food pantries, transitional living programs, or homeless shelters. Resources can include working with transition centers that connects them with workforce or housing assistance. Also, in attempt at education equity, young adults may qualify for tuition waiver letters, financial aid, and federal funds through Education Training Voucher Program. However, a young adult who is aging out of foster care may not have the same support to help them be successful. They often have to prioritize and focus on surviving. It makes it hard to study when you have to worry about paying rent or how you're going to eat. So now I'd like to introduce Nikki Lang with Hand in Hand Foster Care Program to share about what you here at Dallas College are doing to provide support for students who have experienced foster care.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Emily, for that introduction. So my name is Nikki Lang, and I am a case manager here at the El Centro campus for the Hand in Hand Foster Care Program. What we do through our program is we have a dedicated case manager on each campus of all the 7 campuses, and we work with youth that is aged out of care and is interested in pursuing higher education. our primary goal, as Emily had mentioned before, is to make sure that that transition from aging out of care to education, if that's what the youth is interested in, is a more seamless transition. A lot of the times they lack the support systems to kind of understand the process to make that transition. And so that's what we're here for. And our program is relatively new. We've been around since October of last year. And in that time, we've worked really hard to dedicate a lot of our time and efforts to connecting and having those partnerships with CASA, and particularly the track centers that work with the youth that are aging out of care via City Square. So those are our main goals, to connect with those youth that are thinking possibly of pursuing higher education or training of some sort in a higher education environment, to make sure that they're connected with the right resources. So some of the things that we do as a case manager are providing those campus and community referrals. So your traditional campus referrals, making sure students are connected with financial aid, their success coaches, career and transfer services when that time comes. And we also make those community referrals, hence the partnerships that we've been making since the program developed. We've worked specifically with CASA recently, and as I mentioned before, track with City Square. We also are working with another nonprofit organization that provides employment and training assistance to youth that have aged out of care specifically. And so the way that we make sure that the students are prepared to kind of go through these processes are through kind of coaching and mentoring. So we are case managers in a sense, but we also really provide services that rely on kind of providing the support, encouragement, and mentoring and coaching to help the students get through. And we work with them from the application process until they graduate and get ready to transfer or look for an employment. Another way that we kind of bridge the gap between those services and those experiences that foster care students may be lacking are through education and workshops. So throughout the academic year, we provide workshops, again, on each campus, because we have a case manager on every campus. Those workshops include things like resume writing. We do a lunch and learn where we provide lunch to the students, and then they go through a resume writing workshop that helps them prepare for job interviews, gives interview tips, resume tips, and things of that nature. We also do workshops that make sure students are connected to all of the resources that are out there. As Emily mentioned before, she discussed the ETV program that provides financial assistance also to foster youth that are pursuing higher education or training in some sort. So we make sure that we're connected with them. And we have a workshop every year where we have a representative come and discuss the program with them. We also do field trips for students. We recently, this April, just took a group of our students to UNT and TWU to kind of experience that university feel. They learned about transferring to a four-year university if that's something that they're interested in. And we also connected them with the foster care programs that are represented on those campuses as well, so that they're ready to transfer and ready to make those connections when the time comes. And in general, just support services. So that can be anything from just kind of sitting and talking with the student, or doing role playing, prep for interviews if they're having difficulty in their classes and they need to kind of have that discussion with their instructor. Sometimes it's difficult for them to kind of figure out how to start that conversation. And so we work through those kind of things. Again, that's the coaching and mentoring aspect of our program. So we, again, are available on every campus. If you'd like more information about our program, our email is listed here in the PowerPoint. And it also will connect you with each campus. So if you happen to be working with a student that may not be at the El Centro campus, again, we're represented on every campus, and our contact info is located there.
So much. So it kind of, as a mom, really grabs my heart that children aren't getting what they need from the parents who are responsible for them. So I am so grateful that y'all and all of your volunteers are here to help all of these kids. And we do have a few questions that have come in, but just horrifying statistics So you talked a little bit about how people can volunteer, Emily. Um, I know I have a friend who is a CASA volunteer in Tarrant County, and but it's, she's retired and she has more time for it. How can somebody be involved who works full time, who just wants to help, but just can't put in the number of hours that these kids need? What kind of options are there for volunteers?
So, I'm going to start by saying, it sounds like a lot, but we have a lot of volunteers who are full-time employees. We have a lot of volunteers who are executive at companies or attorneys. I don't know if you guys are aware of who St. Marshall is. She's like with the Mavericks, but she's our board president, but she's also a volunteer advocate and adoptive mom. So we have some amazing volunteers who make the time, and the time commitment is really you're talking to people. You can email, you can call. I think the most time commitment that you're committing is, in person, is visiting with the child in their placement. So it's very doable. We have many different types of advocates that are a lot of them that are working full time as well. But if you don't have the time available, there's options that you can share a case. We have advocates who share a case with their husband or their daughter or their son. We have as I mentioned earlier, there's auxiliary groups that you can become a part of, that while some of them are volunteers themselves, they aren't all necessarily volunteers. It's still the mission of CASA. It's still the mission of sharing information about child abuse and the child welfare system and the foster care system here in Dallas. So different ways you can get involved.
Okay, that's good. That makes me feel better, because I know that it can be really an undertaking. So kind of leading from there, how can our students become involved? Like Nikki was saying that, I didn't know that you guys had offices on all of our campuses. That's amazing. That is just absolutely fantastic that you're here to help the students who've aged out get into college. So, we have service learning projects that faculty will offer students to get, extra credit, honors credit, things like that. And then we also just have student clubs that like to be involved. So how can our students help you, whether it's on our campus or not?
I think it's just important for everyone to understand that child abuse and neglect happens out there. So I think for me, I know you mentioned in my bio that I am a part of a coalition that really believes in prevention. As far as specifically to Dallas CASA, there's different ways that we have organizations get involved, or even students. We have individual families, or just even like elementary school kids who, want to donate items and gather specific things, such as school supplies when it comes, or coats, or, hygiene products. Our youths in foster care always need hygiene products. Just anything, books for them to read, or just any type of things that might be useful and might be enjoyable for any child. So those are different ways that, like, individually or as a group, a student group, can get together and donate items. If the students are, I believe our young professionals are 21 and over, that's a fun opportunity to kind of get involved, to fundraise, and also just kind of talk about what we do. Our young professionals throw happy hours. They throw like a casino event in February just to raise money and raise awareness. So those are things that they can do to get involved, if not specifically as a volunteer advocate.
Okay. And do you mind if I put your email address in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I will share my screen again, because I put my information on. There you go.
Perfect.
So yes, this is my information. I am a supervisor with Dallas CASA. So basically, any volunteer advocate will be assigned to a supervisor to help guide you through that process. the child welfare system is pretty complex. So we want to make sure that our advocates are supported to know what resources are out there, how to navigate the system so that they can best serve the kids that are in care. And then my role is also, like I said, I work with a lot of the older youths that are transitioning out of foster care. Many of them are placed outside of the Dallas area, and that's where you see the traveler part in my name. I typically have the kids that are moving from placement to placement and are in those residential treatment centers that are not local to our area.
Thank you. And I had a couple of questions for Nikki. Nikki, are you still with us?
I am, yes.
Fabulous. So I'm wondering, how do foster students learn about your program in Dallas College? How do you get that word out?
So that's a wonderful question. That's something that we have been working on. Currently, the way that we have been identifying students is through the FAFSA application. So there's a question on there that asks the students if they've ever experienced out-of-home care or foster care. So we reach out to students that way. Part of our intention of partnering with outside agencies is so that we can connect with those students and the youth before they get to college. We're specifically, like I said, working with CASA and TRAC, and we've also began working with the high school counselors so that we can identify students that are thinking about college or higher education before they get to that point so that we can start working with them.
Okay. So so the high school counselors are already aware that's of the students who are in the foster care system, and they just create a pipeline?
Ideally, yes. That's not always the case. As Emily mentioned, placements often occur frequently. So as much as they can keep track of the students and help us identify that population, we would like to work with them in that aspect. But again, we work with also PAL workers that are preparation for adult living through CPS. And they also are working with the older youth like Emily that are aging out of care. And so we also connect with them to see if they're interested in furthering their education or, thinking about a training or a certificate program. So we have a number of different ways that we try to identify students before they get to the point to where it's kind of too late to access some of the resources like the tuition waiver.
Okay. And how and I know you said you guys haven't been going very long. What, you started last October?
Yes.
How many students have y'all helped? Do you guys track that?
Yes. So this past year we were able to connect with, I think it was around 3,000 students. We just did our end of the year report. So, yes.
Wow.
We just did our end of the year report, and I believe that number that sticks out in my head. And so again, that's not just foster youth, but youth that have experienced out of care services in some way, shape, or form. So even if they were returned to their parents or they were reunified, we still work with them because again, sometimes those experiences they're very traumatic and they have lasting effects.
So 3,000 just in Dallas County?
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Yes, it's been quite the year.
Yeah, I'll bet it has, with all things considered. Well, that's wonderful. And we have one of our counselors here in our session, Dalia Blau, who says she wants to know, have you considered a volunteer program that partners with an organization to have the volunteer visit with the child at the volunteer's place of employment? If Dallas College had such a partnership, the child could be exposed to higher education in a supervised setting.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand the question as far
It got a little discombobulated. Can you?
So I can kind of say to expose to higher education. Okay, so I will say in that sense, there is different ways, and I think that's one of my primary goal as a CASA volunteer or CASA advocate working with youth aging out of care is that we do want to expose them to higher education. It's Nikki mentioned earlier that there's a preparation for adult living worker, there's a caseworker, and then as a CASA, we're constantly talking to these young people about the tuition waiver benefit or the educational benefits that are available. I like to take college campus tours with my young adults as well. And that's how Nikki and I kind of connected was, I reached out to her and said, hey, I have a young man who's interested in, checking out your school. And so that's what we do. And then, then I took him, I think last Friday, to a university and just kind of showed him the difference between, Dallas College and that particular university, so he can kind of make an educated decision on, what he would be most successful at. And so we do try to engage them in higher education. But again, like I mentioned in my presentation, sometimes the focus isn't higher education because of their needs, because they're not prepared, because they're really more concerned about, where am I going to be, or how am I going to survive if I don't have the support that many other, individuals have. And so I don't know if that quite answers the question, but if it doesn't,
Yeah, you can.
I'm happy to revisit it.
Yeah, you
And
can
then
clarify that,
I
Dahlia.
can kind
if
of
you want to.
add a little to that. So, like Emily was saying, sometimes that's not necessarily the priority because they are thinking about like the next place that they're going to live. We also work with, again, the PAL workers, the Preparation for Adult Living, and they hold their aging out seminars here on our campuses. So a group of students are, they come and they tour the campuses, they get information about applying to college and doing the application, kind of how that process works. So we do hold those seminars on Dallas college campuses.
And how are those? Do you know how those are publicized?
So
Is that
those
the
so
aging out?
seminars are specific to just the foster youth. So the PAL workers who are assigned to the foster youth within those age range are going to be the ones to notify the children and the caregivers. And so, yeah, so that's specific to just those youth that are in care at that time.
Okay, Dahlia says, thank you. That answers the question. So perfect.
And I kind of want to expand a little bit more on the educational benefits for youths. If you had looked at my presentation earlier, there's just not that many that are taking advantage of the program as much. But again, there's a lot of reasons why that could be. But youth that age out of foster care are eligible for free tuition at public institution, college, trade school, universities, for the rest of their life. So they can earn as many degrees as they want. I actually learned that Dallas College rolls books into the
we do.
And so, that is a huge benefit. They qualify for financial aid in the Pell Grant because they were in care and their income expectation is 0. And so that qualifies them for some financial aid. And then there's federal funds through the education training voucher that both Nikki and I mentioned earlier. That is a huge benefit for youths who are wanting to go to college. And so there are some good supports out there. It's making sure that young people know about it, young people know how to access that. And that's where, both CASA and the PAL worker and Nikki and your program at Dallas College comes in to make sure these youths are utilizing all the resources that are available to them.
Well, and do you have any statistics on how many young people who come out of care actually complete a degree?
So there was a study done in 2018. So it's a little hard to follow, and there haven't been too many studies, but there is a program that's trying to keep track of youths. But the latest study that I saw in 2018 that followed a cohort of youths that have experienced foster care, I think I mentioned earlier in my presentation, overall nationally, they say less than 3% earn a college degree. And then in Texas specifically, I think it was 1.5% that earned a bachelor's, and I think 0.5% that actually earned an associate's degree, and then kind of on from there. And so, I'm hoping it's kind of looking a little differently and that there's definitely more students that are accessing college, but I still work with a lot of young people, that have already left care, and it's challenging.
Yeah.
going to college and university is very different from when they were in foster care, and some of them struggled academically, and some of them give up. I had a young lady who called me because she said, hey, I didn't do so well this semester, and now I'm on probation, and now I can't access financial aid. And so it goes on and on as far as some of the struggles that typically other supported young adults may not have some of the same struggles, I guess I would say. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that was, yeah, I saw that 3% statistic, and I just, of course, had a feeling it was even lower in Texas.
yeah.
So kind of, leading from that, how do you guys work with the State Department of Family and Protective Services,
As far as educationally or just in general?
just in general?
So so at CASA, whenever CPS removes a child and they're placed in foster care, that has to go through the court systems. And so at that point, the judge will typically assign a CASA to the case, and that's how we start working with them. So we concurrently work with the caseworker, we work with the attorneys that are on the case, the caregivers. And so our volunteers are visiting the children in their placement, making sure that their needs are being met, making sure that they are safe in their placements, and then advocating for permanency. So, interacting with the department to ensure that, parents are still involved, and are they working services to try to reunify with the child and kind of work to reduce those risks so that the children can go home. We're working with the department to try to find families for the children in the event that they can't go home to their parents. And in the event that there are no family, then we're working to find adoptive homes or permanent homes for them. And like for me specifically, I'm working with the department to just kind of prepare our young adults who don't end up in permanent homes to try to prepare them to transition into adult living.
Well, and I don't know if most of y'all keep up with the news, but there was a story that just came out yesterday. The foster care program in Texas has been under fire for the last several years, and just yesterday it was announced that a judge is going to levy substantial fines on the state because it's not fixing the system. What in your mind, do you think needs to happen to fix this broken foster care system that Texas has currently?
That's a very loaded question.
I know it is. I'm sorry.
That there's a lot that probably needs to be done, but I think if I can sum it up into one thing, I think that just better quality services for both families and parents and children, and then also just in their placements. I think there just needs to, and of course, there's a lot of complications with that, but
Oh yeah.
like I said, there's a lot, it's very loaded, but I think that just the quality of services and quality of care. And I think for me, I think that's why CASA is so amazing, is because, you have that one consistent volunteer that is constantly with the child when things are always changing, when placements are always changing, when their plan is always changing, when they may have several different caseworkers on their case, and that may be changing. I used to be a caseworker, and I think Nikki used to be one too, and it's a tough job. And the burnout rate is really high from what they all have to do, and it's challenging. And so lots of respect to our CPS caseworkers and the ones that just truly care about the youth. But I just think that it's going to take a lot to really just provide, and I don't know how and when we're ever going to get to that point where we will have just a higher level of quality and care for our youths. But again, I go back to, I'm really a proponent on prevention. I think that we want to be working with these families before children have to come into care, because the foster care system is very traumatizing for parents, for children, for everyone involved. And so if we work more on the prevention side, I think that, we can probably help to alleviate some of those traumas. I don't know if Nikki has anything to add about that.
No, you said it very well, very well. I completely agree.
Yes, and the judge that you mentioned earlier, it's a long-standing lawsuit against the state of Texas on behalf of.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, several years. Yeah.
It's been several years.
Yeah. Well, and Alex just put into the chat that the communication is the most frustrating part after his experiences of family members that he has who have gone through CPS. That communication is always tough, getting everybody corralled and everything. So we just had a couple of more questions. Now you survived the toughest one. I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there. So Andrea wants to know, are there any events in regards to CASA Care for first-time volunteers, like just on the weekends or something?
So I would probably refer you, if you send me an email, I can refer you to our person who kind of does some of our events. I know that we have our Parade of Playhouses coming up soon, and I don't know if that's an opportunity for individuals to kind of volunteer. For those of you who don't know, we have people and organizations and company who build fun little playhouses for us, and it's displayed at North Park, and it gets raffled off, and that's a fundraising event for us. And we always take volunteers to kind of man those tables. As far as the weekends, I don't know as far as just like individual one time, but I can definitely refer you to somebody who can kind of have those conversations if there's one-time volunteer opportunities like that.
Excellent. And so Andrea, Emily's email is in the chat.
Yes,
so if you want to
feel free to email me or call me.
Get that. And just one other question: is there a specific time of year where items or volunteers are needed more at CASA?
I would say we need items all year round, and we have a specific person that can kind of tell you maybe at the time frame that you're looking to donate any items, what probably is the biggest need at that time. So if you email me, I'll be happy to connect you to her. As far as volunteers, if we're talking about volunteer advocates all year round, it's 365 days a year that children are coming into care. And so there's always such a need. I really enjoy my volunteer advocates because I feel like they have a different understanding. I say it's sometimes like, I don't have time to commit 100% to that one child, and a volunteer advocate does. And it's amazing the quality of relationships that our advocates are able to have with those young people and the trust that they're able to develop. And I will also say that sometimes it's kind of cool for our advocates to be like, hey, this is just my volunteer job. I don't get paid for this. I'm doing this because of you, that I care about you and care about what happens to you. And so I think that's the biggest part of it. And also just the fact that, like, as an organization and through our volunteers, we're talking about child abuse. We're talking about the child welfare system and making it known publicly that this is something to be aware of. And this is something that is happening in our community.
It's really tough. It's a tough conversation and tough volunteering to do those kinds of things. And my hat's off to, I admire all of you for your hard work to protect our children, specifically in Dallas Fort Worth area. You guys are making a huge difference. So Mindy, thank you for that question. Like I said, Emily's email is in the chat, so you're welcome to grab that and contact Emily directly. So does anybody have any other questions? We just have a couple of minutes left. I'm out of questions. Anybody else? Right. Thank you, Dahlia says. So guys, thank you so very much for doing the amazing work that you do. And I hope that we can do something with the sustainability team because this is absolutely a social justice issue. to work with you in Dallas College. So thank you again. And I hope you guys have a terrific, thanks again for coming.
Thank you.